Iwo Jima is a tiny island 660 miles south of Tokyo, Japan. In 1945, Iwo Jima was a primary objective in American plans to bring about the end of World War II. On the morning of February 19, 1945, Marines successfully invaded the island. By February 23, the Marines climbed up the rough terrain to the top and raised an American flag. Joe Rosenthal of the Associated Press caught the flag raising in an iconic photograph, which won a Pulitzer Prize. Sculptor Felix W. de Weldon was so moved by the image that he constructed a life-size model of it. That model was cast in bronze, and President Eisenhower dedicated it as a memorial to the U.S. Marine Corps on November 10, 1954, which was the 179th anniversary celebration of the Corps. The Marine Corps Memorial is a must-see for anyone living in or traveling to Washington, D.C. But the memorial has its share of secrets and hidden gems to be discovered. Let me share with you some surprising stories about the memorial that you may not know. The U.S. Marine Corps War Memorial is located on Arlington Ridge across the Potomac River from the Lincoln Memorial. This means that the view from the Iwo Jima Memorial is one of the best spots to snap a photo of the iconic panorama of the Lincoln Memorial, as well as the Washington Monument and U.S. Capitol in an amazingly aligned order. The figures are 32 foot high and are shown raising a 60-foot bronze flagpole. This American flag flies 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. It is one of only less than 10 flags that are required to be continually displayed by presidential proclamation. If you wonder what happened to the original flag from Rosenthal's photo, you can still see it. It is displayed at the National Museum of the Marine Corps in Virginia. Uncommon valor was a common virtue. These words are emblazoned on the base of the memorial. Those words were uttered by Fleet Admiral Chester Nimitz. He was aware that more Marines earned the Medal of Honor on Iwo Jima than in any other battle of U.S. history. Because of this, he declared, among the men who fought on Iwo Jima, uncommon valor was a common virtue. That's not the only engraving on the statue. The base of the memorial is engraved with every major battle involving the U.S. Marine Corps since 1775. The total cost of the memorial was $850,000. Remarkably, that was paid for only with private donations from Marines and friends of the Marine Corps throughout the country and the world. No public funds were used. A refurbishment of the memorial was also completed in 2020. The project included new engravings and cleaning and waxing. The refurbishment was paid for with a generous $5.37 million donation from philanthropist David Rubenstein to the National Park Foundation. The figures are armed with either a 16-foot-long M1 Garand rifle or a 12-foot-long M1 carbine. Their intimidating combat knives are 5½ feet long and their helmets are 3½ feet in diameter. If you can imagine it, the canteen would hold 32 quarts of water. There is a link in the description below to a fascinating article on the history of the weapons used in the battle at Iwo Jima. 3 of the men identified in the photo died during battle. All available pictures and physical characteristics of the 3 who had given their lives were collected and then used in the modeling of their faces. 3 others, Renee Gagnon, Ira Hayes and John Bradley, posed for the sculptor as he modeled their faces in clay. These 3 became celebrities, traveling the country to sell war bonds in support of the war effort. There is no doubt that all these soldiers are heroes. However, the Marine Corps has had to adjust the names of those in the famous photograph 3 times over the years. The Marine Corps initially incorrectly identified Sergeant Henry Hansen as a flag raiser in the famous photo, only to later determine he was not. After a congressional inquiry, the Marines admitted it was actually Harlan Block of Texas. In June 2016, the Marine Corps also announced that Harold Schultz, a Marine, was in the photo, and John Bradley was not. This happened even after his son, James Bradley, had co-authored the bestseller Flags of Our Fathers. 3 years later in 2019, following an exhaustive investigation, Harold Keller was identified as one of the flag raisers and Rene Gagnon was removed. Keller was identified 4 decades after his death in 1979 at the age of 57. The reasons why the misidentifications happened is still not fully understood. It seems that there may have been some early unintentional mistakes, then it may have become more important to sell bonds for the war than correct the record. One thing not in dispute is that all these men served their country well. 3 of the soldiers traveled the country with a kind of celebrity status. However, there were hard times on the road. This was especially true for soldier Ira Hayes. Hayes was Native American, of the Pima tribe, and in some of the towns they visited on the tour, the American hero was refused entry in some restaurant dining rooms. Ira Hayes left the island, unwounded and a hero. But back home he only found jobs picking cotton and day labor work. He became a drifter, drank a lot, was in and out of jail. In today's terms, he probably suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder. He died in 1955 on the reservation overcome with alcohol and likely exposure. He was buried at Arlington National Cemetery, not far from the memorial. A YouTube channel did a touching story of his life. The link is in the description below. There is also a link to a book which tells the complete story. In addition to being immortalized in bronze, he was also immortalized in song. Johnny Cash paid tribute to the forever hero in the ballad of Drunken Ira Hayes. The battle that took place before the photograph was as brutal as the photograph was triumphant. The Japanese knew their tiny island, Iwo Jima, would be attacked. Therefore, Japan's best and brightest mining engineers turned the island into an impregnable fortress. Laborers blasted out 16 miles of tunnels, connecting 1,500 rooms. The engineers built underground hospitals, supply rooms, and bunkers in solid rock. The United States pounded Iwo Jima, but the effect on the underground fortress was negligible. Then on February 19, 1945, the Marines stormed the beach. The losses were staggering. In 36 days of fighting, 6,825 U.S. troops were killed and 22,000 were wounded. Virtually all of the 21,000 Japanese defenders were killed. Fortunately, some soldiers who lived through the battle have shared their stories and they can be found throughout YouTube.
This is a unique story about one of the most dramatic moments in World War II. And I suppose of all the battles in World War II, no battle has the image of Iwo Jima.
In addition to the real-life accounts, the stories have also been dramatized on film. Sands of Iwo Jima is a 1949 Oscar-nominated war film starring John Wayne. It follows a group of United States Marines from training to the Battle of Iwo Jima during the war. Near the end of the film, the famous flag raising is reenacted. Rene Gagnon, Ira Hayes, and John Bradley had cameo roles.
There she goes.
Flags of Our Fathers is a 2006 film directed by Clint Eastwood. It is based on the book of the same name, written by James Bradley, the son of John Bradley, who was mistakenly identified to be in the photograph. The film is taken from the American viewpoint of the battle. But Eastwood also directed a companion film, Letters from Iwo Jima, which is from the Japanese viewpoint of the battle. I hope you have enjoyed and have been fascinated by the stories of the memorial. If you go to see it in the summer months, You can watch Marines from the Marine Barracks perform their famous sunset parade in front of the memorial every Tuesday evening. I leave you with a bit of the celebration of the heroism. And please don't forget to like this video, and subscribe and leave a comment.